Hey, apologies because the first part of this vlog series had the wrong date. Today is August 31st, and it was this morning, not the 30th. It was really early this morning when the sun was rising, and I still had a flashlight pointed at me. So I want to apologize for that. I also want to say that I got up this morning with, a lot of the triggers from species alienation yesterday. And I got up with dreams that created, reference relatively to the schemas of my day as they were during sleep, filed under long-term memory of related schemas. So it made me have a dream about a person that I invested a lot of time in on the internet called, it's Irina. And in this dream, as she was in Canada, kind of hoping that I'd help her. And in the dream, I'm watching her kind of doing her own thing, showing the self-serving behaviors. And I'm kind of not trying to convince her to do otherwise, that, that her choices are going to fail in my abilities to assist her. Because, for example, she's not keeping up with me. In this dream, we're going to get separated in the subway system. So it's kind of a weird thing that it relates to some of my triggers of the day. I haven't talked to her in a long time, and it's not something that's going to happen. But, because I remember my dreams most of the time, more than one of them, is, it kind of brought about the feelings from the day before, the triggers of species alienation from the day before. And it was related a lot to going to the hospital, right? The Ministry of Poverty Creation and for the facilitation of drug addiction, I call it. They actually have recommended I go get a form signed, because the last one, where I refuse to have my identity used to have ministry laundered, money laundered from the ministry to the business world through fraud, and I'm still asking them to investigate it, is that form expired. But then I kind of heard of an orthotics business and related shoe store that is reputable, and I went and got a quote, and then now the ministry says, nope, we're not going to work harder than that. You have to go get extra expenses from a doctor. We don't know if they're going to charge you. We don't know where you can get a doctor in BC or a drop-in clinic. And also the form has a specialist of orthotics that is required also. So for me to not be a part of the broken system of money laundering is, again, I have additional expenses. So I go to the hospital, and so in the emergency, that's where I got robbed. I received no medical services whatsoever. Just got robbed. All the cash in my wallet, all of it. And they said, yeah, okay, well, we showed your form to the doctor, and he'll see you. And first they couldn't say how long it'd take, blah, blah, blah. But it's $25 for that government form. And it doesn't really qualify as a government form, but anyways, if it is, it's a money laundering BC Ministry of Poverty Creation form. So, yeah, he fills that out, but when he comes back from a phone call, he comes and I'm sitting, and he's got his arm crossed, standing in front of me. And at one point, I started telling my story, and then I said, well, I hope that phone call went okay, because, he didn't wash his hands when he came back in to use his phone, because he wasn't planning to give me medical services. He was planning to engage in a business relationship, right? That included cash. So, yeah, he eventually, I agreed, but then he asked for another $25 for the thing that's not a government form, that's just his little slip. And then, it turns out I had exactly $50 cash in my wallet, so he got that out of me. And his little slip even said Martin would benefit from lactose-free and gluten-free foods. And I said, well, when you write would, the ministry's big team of specialists, of medical people, look for words to disqualify me for things. So he changed it to does, but you can tell, I didn't even initial it. It might still look so unprofessional, but I paid $25 for it. And the nurse before, too, I had to say, yes, I do feel, by human standards, that I'm not treat it with respect. But I said, you don't have to engage in a conversation with me. I'm just answering you because we kind of start a little conversation about what it's like there. Because one of the ladies, the first lady, she said, hey, I'm just trying to get it right and do, serve you well with the forms. But really, it's not about the people skills, which are horrible. It's about the dots and the T's and the I's, and all this on their forms, right? It's the path of least resistance for them with no human interactions of quality or compassion. So I'm pointing that out. I'm saying, if your only goal to do well is to do the form that won't get you in trouble, or to ask the questions in disorder and really be horrible listeners who interrupt all the time with attitude, yeah, it's not really a successful day on the job by human standards. So the doctor gave me the receipts, and I'm going to try and get those reimbursed by the ministry. And it could happen, or it could not happen, that I'll get these boots that I could have gotten boots last year if I had accepted to be robbed of this money that was approved and funded, but that had been raised in price so that I wouldn't benefit from it. The entire profit would be a professional that was failing in his business and was greedy and not really serving the public either. So yeah, so it's not nice to be robbed, and it's not nice that the government of poverty creation recommends you go get robbed at the risk that they may accept or refuse funding that actually results in being less than the expenses. Even if you go, like my time is only minimum wage per hour, but travel expenses, it's still less than this. Now this is the money laundering system. And yes, I'm kind of crazy to do it again, but I have to document people don't come to Canada. It's a money laundering scheme. It's a pyramid scheme. It has nothing to do with the concept of humanity or community. And this is the way it is. And this doctor, this poor young man, you can tell he's already in the stage of surviving one day at a time. Greed takes over. The system is not changing. And yet the people doing rallies or whatever for, being anti-vaccine, they're not talking about, they are also probably wanting to not refuse vaccine, but refuse the semblance of medical care when it's the business world, and it still hasn't been fixed. There's no medical care in Canada. There's only the business world and money laundering between private and public sectors and people that, want to get their job. So that doctor is already survival one day at a time, and he's so young. He's probably half my age. And final thing I want to say about that is I just came from a place where they were teaching people how to inject medicine if somebody's an overdose of opium. And I'm thinking, okay, you want to give me a free kit? It looks expensive. The box is fancy. I said, but I wouldn't even have a phone to call 911 because I can't afford one. And I have skills to help people heal from addictions, and yet I'm supposed to learn how to revive them so they can do it again, because that's our economy, So these addicts that survive one day at a time in a dysfunctional, inhuman society, again, that's what the doctor reminded me of, and the next day the doctor's got to wake up out of his overdose of dysfunctional system he belongs to and do it again the next day, when there is better than this. If you apply human standards, if you want to really mature as a species and do the work, there is better than this. But nobody else seems to want to do the work for this. So yeah, it is a tough thing to live in BC, as my predictions from years ago are manifesting around me. And the more I talk about it and defend my human rights, and my ability to not be robbed by the government, for example, that launder money among themselves in the business world, is I'm getting closer and closer to not being able to pass criminal record checks because they consider me irate by not being a sheep like them. It has nothing to do with right and wrong. It has a lot to do with wanting to participate in culture breakages, or wanting to say, no, I'm not participating. I mean, I know you're not going to hire me as a culture repair, but I still don't want to participate. And even this fundamental human right for me not to participate in culture breakages it's getting intense.